So today I am really excited and also pretty nervous because I have for you guys an original tag. This tag is the Do You Know Your Slang tag. The idea behind this tag is that there are a bunch of different slang words that people use in a variety of different ways, and the aim is that you will say how you think these different words that I'll tell you about in a minute are intended and how they're used in the vernacular, and then you pick books that correspond to your definition. What do I mean by that? Well, first I'm going to direct you to a video that I put up a few weeks ago, which was Old Lady Says What? Which is basically me having a silly fun time poking fun at myself with all of the different vernacular words, slang words that I have heard since I've been part of booktube that I don't necessarily entirely get or that I was misunderstanding. So I put that up and I got quite a few different people commenting, and one of those people was Victoria from What Victoria Read. Her channel is in the description below and in the eye, and also my original video is in the description below and in the eye as well. So please do go and check out my own video and also Victoria. Anyway, Victoria commented and said that she thought it was hilarious and that I should make it into a tag. So we had a little bit of a chat about how I might go ahead and do that, and we have come up between the two of us with a tag that I think is going to be really fun. So in a moment I'm going to give you your 8 words, and those words are the slang words. What you need to do if you're doing this tag is you need to say what you think those words mean in the vernacular, so how they're intended as slang, and then you need to find books to correspond with those meanings. So obviously everyone's going to have slightly different meanings. Sometimes you might know exactly how it's intended in the vernacular, sometimes you might not. So everyone's video is going to be a little bit different, and then obviously they'll have different books. So let me give you a couple of examples. In my original video I talked about the word ship and how I kept hearing people were shipping certain couples or shipping certain people, but I didn't quite understand what people were meaning by that. I knew that it wasn't that we were going to put them in a boat and sail them away, but that's what I kept imagining in my head. That would be my response if I was using the word ship for this tag. Then I would say that it is a book featuring a ship, and that's how I would approach it because that's what I kept seeing in my head when I was hearing we were talking about shipping something. But if you knew that it meant that it was that people were really excited for a relationship to happen, or really excited because they thought that a relationship should happen, or they really loved a relationship that was in a book, then they would say that that's what they knew, that's how they approached it, and they would say, here's a book that I love the romantic relationship in, or a couple in this book that I thought should have been in a relationship. So I hope that makes sense. Yeah, so like I said, I'm going to give you 8 words. You then say in your tag what you think those 8 words mean when they're used in a slang way, and then you will say 8 books that correspond to those 8 different meanings. I have got all of my notes in the computer, which is just down here. Alright, so my 8 words are shook, ship, stan, cinnamon roll, trash, salty, lit, and spilling the tea. So like I said, for your tag, if you're doing this tag, you need to say what you think those words mean when we're using them in a slang way, and then you need to show us or talk to us about a book that corresponds to that meaning. So for me, some of these I already used in that video, so people have commented on the video and told me what what the slang actually refers to. So I will tell you what I found out as well as what I originally thought, but I'm only going to show you books that correspond to what I thought you guys were talking about. So first up we have Shook. I assumed that this was a book that you find shocking, or a situation or a thing that happened in a book that you found shocking, that really surprised you or really shocked you in some way. So for this one, I'm going to say, and it's just down here, so give me a sec, The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo by Stieg Larsson. This book is following a couple of different characters, one of whom is a reporter, journalist for an independent magazine, and he has been hired to look into the disappearance of someone's niece from many years ago. Then he comes across, during this investigation, a hacker slash investigator, Lisbeth Salander, and they delve into the disappearance and what's happened. We follow them in their investigations, but you'll also see other stuff that's been going on in their lives at the time. This book is really, really graphic. There is some stuff in here to do with all sorts of different forms of assault and abuse and torture that is, really graphic, really described in quite minute detail. There was one scene in particular that really surprised me because of how graphic it was, because of how in-depth it was, and also how long it was. It actually takes up a fair bit, like it takes up 2 or 3 pages, which, given what it is a really big amount of time, I think. It's done for a reason that becomes more obvious in the second and third book, and I don't necessarily think it's a bad thing, but I definitely have always been really careful about recommending these books to people, because I do think that it requires, definitely a thick skin. But it's amazing. It did really shake me, because particularly that quite graphic scene that goes for a few pages, it's really graphic and long and in-depth, and I don't think I had read a book that was like that and that had that sort of scene like that. So it really, really shook me, but like I said, I really enjoyed this book, and I do think it's worth a read if you can handle it. I'm not going to go into details about all of the trigger warnings. There are a lot of trigger warnings. Definitely look it up if you're thinking of reading these books. So that is for shook. Next up, we have ship. So like I said when I was giving you my example, I did know that it couldn't realistically mean that it was something to do with a ship because of the context in which ship kept coming up, but I didn't really understand what it meant, so I kept seeing an actual boat in my head. So for this one, I'm going to show you a book that features a boat or features a ship, and for this one I have chosen The Voyage of the Dawn Treader by C.S. Lewis. As you can see on the cover, and by the title, it does feature a ship. It is the Dawn Treader. This is one of the Chronicles of Narnia, and I think it is the 4th book in the series, and it's about 2 of the Pevensies and another, I think, cousin of theirs who goes into Narnia and joins a voyage from Narnia out into the sea and into the islands, and they have lots of adventures and lots of experiences whilst on the voyage of the Dawn Treader. It's a really fun time. It's a really great, well-written middle grade, and I definitely would recommend. So that was Ship. So next up we have Stan. So Stan really, really threw me. If you have watched that video that I talked about, you would know I really had no idea. Rowan suggested that it was meaning like stand, like I'll stand by this, or this is the hill that I'll stand and die on. So something that you're really, 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 you'll stand by no matter what, and it doesn't matter whether it's good, bad, whatever, you will always stand by it. It has come to my attention by a number of different comments that it actually refers to an Eminem song where he created a alter ego character called Stan, who was this super fan of someone. He basically became a stalker, and so it's become this word that means that you are such a huge fan of them, you might as well be a stalker. But because I thought that it maybe meant the stand by, I'll stand by it no matter what, I'm going to go with that one. And for this, I'm going to talk to you about the Lord of the Rings series by J.R.R. Tolkien. This is a series that I grew up reading. My parents read this series to us. I've read this myself multiple times. I've seen the movies multiple times. I've always been a huge, huge fan of The Lord of the Rings. I absolutely will always be a fan of The Lord of the Rings. There are some issues with The Lord of the Rings, probably more obvious, I think, in the movies, and there are some areas where maybe it turns out he wasn't the most amazingly brilliant writer, but I will always stand by them because they just mean so much to me, and they really started my love of reading and my love of fantasy, and I will always love fantasy, and obviously I will always love reading. Well, fingers crossed. So the next one is Cinnamon Roll. For this one, again, I wasn't 100% sure, but I was reasonably certain that it was talking about a character that was just really, really sweet, because cinnamon rolls are really, really sweet. So for this one, I'm going to go back to The Lord of the Rings, and I'm going to talk about Sam. Samwise Gamgee. Sam was just the best character. He was such a good friend to Frodo. He was such a loyal companion to all of the Fellowship, but obviously particularly Frodo. He stood by Frodo no matter what, even when Frodo was starting to go a little bit crazy, even when Frodo was being disloyal himself. Sam was always loyal, always on Frodo's side, always did what he could to help Frodo and to do what needed to be done. And yeah, I just think he is an absolute sweetheart and so caring, and definitely a cinnamon roll. Okay, so the next one is Trash. So this is one that I really didn't know what people were talking about. I thought that what people meant was that you know an author really isn't very good, but you like them anyway. That is the explanation that I'm going to go with. But it's been since explained to me that what people actually mean is that basically you think someone is such a good author, you are such a fan of theirs, that you consider yourself to be trash in comparison to them, which I find a little odd, to be completely honest, but that's what people say. So for this one, because I'm going to go with an author who I think is honestly not that great of an author, but I do really enjoy their books anyway, and that is for the author Katie Ford. So I'm going to put one of her books up on the screen because I don't own any of them. All of the ones that I've borrowed from the library. They are quite simply short, sweet romance books. They follow a very similar formula. They, boy meets girl, some kind of obstacle, they realize they care about each other, they're attracted, they get together. But I do enjoy them. They're a really easy read, they're a really fun read, and yeah, they're just really simple and quick. If you want something that you can just read in an afternoon and just have a good time, definitely those are good books. So that's that one. Okay, so we're now getting into the words that I didn't put in that video, so no one has commented to tell me what's actually intended by these ones. So I'm going to have to go with what I think it might mean out of context. So we have salty. From the context in which I've seen this one used, I think what it basically means is kind of your sassy opinion, maybe where your opinion is sort of negative or sort of opposed to what other people think. So yeah, I'm going to go with that. So for this one, you guys have heard me talk about this author before and this series before, and saying that I have a very unpopular opinion. So it won't be very much of a surprise for me to say that for this I'm going to talk about the Shadowhunter series by Cassandra Clare, specifically The Mortal Instruments by Cassandra Clare. In total fairness, I haven't read anything apart from The Mortal Instruments and The Infernal Devices. I am not opposed to reading more. I could be proven wrong. Maybe I'll like the other ones. I did quite like The Infernal Devices, but The Mortal Instruments, I actually struggled from the first book, but they were okay and I wasn't hating them. I was buddy reading them with Connor, and I think it was the second book, the first Mortal Instruments was like the second book that we buddy read together, so we didn't know each other super well, and I wasn't sure, I wanted to have the experience of buddy reading it with Connor, so I didn't know how whether to DNF or what have you. And like I said, I wasn't hating them. So we've read the first 3 books of the Mortal Instruments, then we read the Infernal Devices, then we went back to the Mortal Instruments. And it was in the 4th book of the Mortal Instruments that I just went, nah, can't do it. I'm really sorry, but basically my salty opinion is that Cassandra Clare overwrites. She doesn't just, like, flowery prose is fine. I'm fine with flowery prose. I love The Night Circus, which is very flowery. Yeah, flowery prose is not a problem for me. What is a problem for me is when the author describes something in multiple ways because it seems like the exact same thing in multiple ways, or over describes a scene in an unnecessary way. And I really find that Cassandra Clare does that, or did that in the Mortal Instruments. The other thing was that I just couldn't stand Jace and Clary. The angst. The unnecessary angst. I mean, I get why it was the case in the first 3, and I get what was going on, but then when that all got resolved and then we went back to them and then Jace was still all moany and angsty and, oh, I can't be with you, I just couldn't do it anymore. No, sorry, but no. Not for me. Next up, we have lit. I genuinely don't know what this means. I mean, I really, honestly don't know what people are meaning when they use this term. Please help me. The only thing that I can think of, which I know is absolutely, completely incorrect when it comes to vernacular use, slang use, is something literary. But like I said, I know that's not how it's meant in that context, but I don't know. Anyway, so because the only thing I can think of is literary, I'm going to go with a literary fiction, and I'm going to talk about Little Fires Everywhere by Celeste Ng. I really like this one. I find it really interesting. We follow 2 families as they kind of intertwine, and we follow different aspects of their lives and their past lives, and it all centers around one of their houses being burnt down and who did it and why. And yeah, I just thought it was really well written and really enjoyable, and definitely would recommend this book, particularly if you like literary fiction. It is, I would say, literary, but there are definitely elements that is very contemporary, and I think it's therefore really easy to read, but in the way that it's very kind of meandering, is much more literary, so I'm going to go with that one. Next up we have Spilling the Tea. This is the final one. When I was first hearing about Spilling the Tea, wasn't quite sure if I was imagining it correctly. I was seeing it as like something that was causing you to like drink your tea and then spit it out or spill it, and so therefore something really shocking or something really funny. In the context that I've since seen it, I think it might mean kind of gossip or information, but I'm going to go with what I first thought, which is, like I said, causing you to spit out your tea. Because I've already said something that shook me or something that was shocking, I'm going to go with funny. And for this one, I'm going to talk about An Absolutely Remarkable Thing by Hank Green. This made me laugh out loud several times. I actually didn't have that reaction with my tea because I wasn't drinking tea at any point while I was reading it, but it did make me laugh out loud, and I definitely think that it's really, really good. There's poignant moments, there's a lot going on, but it's definitely got very funny moments, so definitely really enjoyed this one. And that's it. That is my tag. I really hope that people have enjoyed this. I really hope that people are going to do this tag. I'm really hoping that people see it as something fun and funny and silly that they can do. I am going to tag quite extensively because this is the original and I would like to get it out there and get lots of people doing it and talking about it. So I am going to tag the following people. All of these people will be linked in the description below. You should go and check them all out. They are fantastic. I did check with all of them whether or not it was okay for me to tag them, and they've all said yes, so it's not going to be a shock to anyone. Those people are Victoria from What Victoria Read, Connor from Connor's Library Corner, Ellie from Earl Grey Books, Faye from Mystery Date with a Book, Kat from Brews and Reviews, Helen from Helen's Book Haven, Cece from Cece's Reading Journey, Lana from Lore and Lullabies, Brooke from Brooke's Books, Kat from Stars and Embers, and Scott and Nell from Gunpowder Fiction and Plot. So guys, I'm really excited to see what you come up with in your tag. Really excited to see this go well. So if you have not been specifically tagged, but you like this video and you'd like to do this tag, please do it. I would love to see it done, and please link it in the description below so I can have a look at it. I'm super excited about that. Anyway, that's it from me today. Thank you so much for watching. Like I said, I really hope you enjoyed this video, and I'll see you next time.